Welcome to 40K Radio. Hello and welcome to episode 104 of 40K Radio. I'm your host, Matt Alex. With me, as always, is Amy.
Hello.
And a special international guest today, JF.
How am I sounding? I forgot to ask.
It's fine.
You sound good for somebody
you
that's
sound
5 time zones ahead.
Also recording on my iPhone, so you know.
More international than usual.
Yes. Far away international.
I had a whole bit
prepared.
I had a whole bit prepared about how we had sent you on location so that you could we could have boots on the ground for the Tyranid launch. And then you were like, no, I'm just gonna stay up stupid late so I can do the show with you. So that's fine.
We're talking about Tyranids. Once I have something resembling expertise to offer. I should point out, I am recording this from my hotel room, which is just above a party neighborhood for college students.
Nice.
So, you know, there's going to be noises.
Fantastic. Quality.
So JF, as you mentioned in the last episode, is traveling, but he was kind enough to stay up late to chat with us about Tyranids, the new Tyranid Codex, the models, kits that are coming out, because, as we know, as you've seen on our Facebook page, and we'll see on Warhammer Workshop on our Facebook page, Jeff has a lot of beautiful Tyranid models.
Did I show you pictures of my Tyranid models?
I've seen some of them, and you sent a kind of in-progress picture of the stuff that you were working on that is coming out.
Yeah, it feels like just something I should have sent you. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, Tyranids, I love Tyranids. So, I mean, obviously I had to. I need to be in this. I need to be on this show. I have expertise. I have information. I've played with them. I've modeled them. I love those guys so much.
We were just going to make a lot of stuff up. So.
Also, I have opinions.
Yeah, so, our usual hobby segment is been infested by Tyranids.
Oh, yeah.
JF, why don't you go first? Because I know you've been working on
very simple. Games Workshop was extremely kind to send us a bunch of Tyranid models. I leaped, I plunged into doing as many as possible, but since I was prepping for this trip, that left me with very little time. So I had to stick to 2 models. I went with the Neurolictor because it is a very cool variant on the Lictor that I want to play with. And then I did Norn Emissary.
Nice.
Because why stick to small things? And I've got good and bad things to say about them. Well, not about them. Like the Neurolictor is, if you've assembled a Tyranid Prime with wings, or if you assembled a Doom Mountide, the Parasite Mortrex, if you've assembled any of those hero-sized infantry models, it's the same. It's the same quality. There's no complication. It's pretty simple. The Norn Emissary has a couple of things that are peculiar to it, as far as assembly is concerned. It's mostly very simple, but there's a couple of tricky things. There's something about the tail, and there's something about assembling the head. I go into more detail in the videos that are probably up right now, or are going to be up today as you're listening to this. I do an assembly and painting video for for my color scheme and for the Norn Emissary. But basically, the tail has more. It's got more work to do on it to keep it smooth. We're used to having a lot of overlapping pieces that hide the assembly parts, like the mold lines and pieces, the assembly point of different pieces. Not the Norn Emissary. The Norn Emissary has a very annoying sort of little gap to fill right in the curve of the tail. There's also something about the instructions on how to assemble the head. It has you assemble the sort of the torso area with the leg area, before you assemble the head, and I do not recommend doing that.
Hmm.
Because you will want to look through the torso as you're assembling the head to be able to align it properly.
Mm.
So be warned. But otherwise, they're just lovely models.
I put together some of the other kits, like Death Leaper and Lictor, and I found that in those instructions there were some, definitely with these models, dry fit everything.
Yeah.
Because it's not super clear where some things are supposed to go.
They feel a lot like if you've built, on the Sigmar side, if you've built any of the Night Haunt, that seem like a lot of them seem super simple, and then you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't, like, there's that ghost model that everybody complains about, the like spirits, that if you're actually building that, it's a little weird to put together. It's a lot of spindly things.
It's an apt comparison.
Yeah.
How about you, Amy?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Tyranids are great. I've put some together too. I'm not as far along as I'd hoped to be, but that's okay. I did also sit down and finalize my list for the friendly. Finalize big air quotes. But it was largely do I have all the boxes I need? And I do. So that's progress. And I showed JF my list because I'm doing Leagues of Votan, which are not doing particularly well in the old standings. But if you look on paper, it seems like a pretty solid 1,500 points that I've got put together. So I don't know.
Votan feels to me like one of those armies that in 10th edition plays very differently than they did, and I think there's something there. It might not be top tier, but I think people still haven't figured it out yet. I think somebody came in 5th in some big tournament with them. So
yeah,
it's very possible. One of the things about 10th edition, we'll talk about it in more detail as we talk about the Tyranid Codex, is not everything plays as you think it would play, and the game itself doesn't play the way you'd think it would play.
I myself put together quite a few of the Tyranid kits, the Gene Stealers, the Death Leaper, and Lictor that Games Workshop was, as JF said, kind enough to send us for review, and actually played a game with the Tyranid Codex, which we'll talk about when we talk about the Codex itself. But yeah, let's jump right in. So this is our first 10th edition Codex. This is sort of here's how codexes are going to go down. Yeah, are going to be from now on, and just your guys' first general impression of how it sets the roadmap. So I'll say, just for me, the Codex is great, gives you a lot more options, which we'll get into, but nothing feels broken, I guess is the word.
Sure.
Right? It doesn't feel like this is going to dominate, because it has a Codex, is going to dominate every tournament from now until the Straight Stream Codex comes out. If they all follow this pattern, it gives you more options, but none of them are ridiculously overpowered compared to what's already out there for other people. It's just more.
Yeah, I mean, from the standpoint of somebody who has no real world comparison to old Tyranids, and just the way that this is formatted is actually really, really nice. It seems like the sort of cleanest codex that we've had yet. Everything is in sort of the order you would expect it to be. So we've got, our usual lore stuff. There's the showcase. And then when we get into the gameplay stuff, it starts with the combat patrol, because that is theoretically, if you're just starting, this is where you're going to start. And it's got all that info. And then it has, your army building, including your detachments, which we'll get into that in more depth. But I was cool to see how that's actually going to work in the real world. And then your crusade rules at the end, and then your points of nonsense. And so that's, it feels really clean. I really like it.
Yeah, my impressions so far are it's as good as having a codex is going to be. In the sense, I still don't want codexes. I still feel that having indexes, having all the rules be their own thing, and people just being able to pick up the game, pick up models, and get playing is the best solution. That remains for me. That being said, I like the way they approached it. I'm especially keen on how detachments seem to work.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, especially for Tyranids, it doesn't feel... Because one of the things that I kind of expected for detachments, the way we used to have in 9th edition, the sub-factions were ways to build an army. If you were building a certain sub-faction, you expected to go for a certain type of model. It was basically a codex within the codex.
Yeah.
And detachments for the Tyranids, although there's definitely some of that because each detachment sort of calls upon a certain type of unit or a certain keyword, they feel less like somatic obligations and more like, how can I put it? This is my collection. This is what I want to bring, and this is the detachment that will allow me to use what I'm bringing.
Yeah, because you could theoretically play the same army in any of these detachments.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the neat things about the detachments is it's, most of them are, all Tyranids or, get this, but then these guys with these keywords also do this.
Right.
Exactly.
So, some of them will be less effective, obviously. Like, if you bring no synapse and you play, a synapse detachment, you're not going to play it to its full potential.
Right.
But you could.
And the thing is, what's interesting is that there's no situation where, say you do take there is a detachment that's all synapse all the time, so to speak, and it's called the synaptic nexus detachment. You still wouldn't want to bring only synapse creatures.
Right.
No.
And I feel like it's the same way. Like there's maybe one outlier to that, which is the Vanguard Onslaught detachment. And even as I'm saying that, I'm not exactly sure, but most of them don't rely on you bringing only the one thing that is highlighted by the detachment.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely could. I made this very fun 7 model Crusher Stampede list, which is 7 monsters, and spoilers, one of them is a Hive Tyrant, and the other 6 are 3 Norn Assimilators and 3 Norn Emissaries. It would be a terrible list, but it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
But you could definitely just build an all monsters list from a Crusher Stampede, but you would probably be better having a few other things in there just to balance things out. The spotlight is on the monsters, but as a means of enabling other units too.
It's the what part of your army do you think is cool? All right, great. We're going to make that part better.
And the best example of that is the Assimilation Swarm, which I think is probably the best way of creating detachments I've seen so far, because everything relies, all the stratagems, everything relies on the Harvester keyword. There are 4 units with the Harvester keyword, which is very, very small. There's probably over a dozen with the Vanguard keyword for the Vanguard Onslaught. But those 4 Harvesters are weird. It's the Ripper Swarm, the Haruspex, Pyrovore, of all things, and what's the last one? Another thing that eats. I said Haruspex, said Ripper Swarm. It'll come to me. But anyways, the whole point isn't that whenever you're using stratagems or you're using those abilities, the Harvester unit most of the time doesn't benefit from it. It's just there to channel the ability or the stratagem. If you have a Harvester unit close to a unit that gets destroyed, you can use Reclaim Biomass and use the biomass of the killed unit through the Harvester unit to heal another unit within 6 inches of the Harvester unit. So you need these non-Harvester units to benefit from the Harvester's presence.
Yeah, and even a couple of the stratagems in the Harvester Swarm, right? They work for other units. non-harvester units. So they still, that's another reason to take them is these stratagems work on these other units, and it allows them to regenerate as if the harvester had made them regenerate, right, or stuff like that. So same thing with the Vanguard Onslaught one. A lot of their stratagems are pick one Tyranid unit or 2 Vanguard Invader units, which are the special keyword that all those models have.
Yeah.
So
exactly, it's not that these advantages don't work for the army, is that they work better for the specific focus of the army, and that focus serves as a channel to get better returns on your non-focused units too.
Yeah, exactly. And other than the Codex, like Amy said, is laid out very cleanly. You go through all your detachments, then you get onto your data slates, then you have your combat patrol, and then at the end is the points. So
you guys forgot to mention Crusade rules.
I'm sorry.
Crusade rules.
Yeah, after the data slates are the Crusade rules.
Oh, sorry,
right?
my mistake.
Yeah.
My mistake. It's
But
right here.
Yes. So a whole new slate of Crusade rules. Still look, fantastic and very thematic.
So fun.
I have some friends who want to
that's
do
the harvester that's missing. Sorry,
okay. I have some friends who want to do Crusade, and I'm like, oh, I'll play Tyranids, guys. It's fine. You can,
I like that it's fun. I like that things like battle traits and scars they have for Tyranid units and for Synapse units. Yes. I like that we've split them. It's good. It looks really fun.
So a lot of the detachments are based off a specific keyword. The 2 new keywords that come with the book, as JF mentioned, are Harvester, and the other one is Vanguard Invader. And there's quite a few of the Vanguard units, because that was the army I played, and I took one of everything that had the keyword, except for the Parasite of Mortex has it, and the Harpy and the Hive Crone have it as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is a hard and fast rule, but you can assume that if it flies, it has it, and if it's Gene Stealer or Gene Stealer variant, it has it.
Yeah, so
Broodlords and Gene Stealers and everything with wings.
Yep, exactly.
Including the Tyrannocyte.
And the Winged Hive Tyrant has it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so so that's kind of what I took.
Sorry, I forgot. Also, anything that's a Lictor.
Yes, everything Lictor or Lictor-esque has it as well. And it was funny you were saying when we first talked about it that maybe this one is okay by itself, but actually the game I played, my opponent had 3 Space Marine Dreadnoughts, and I had a hell of a time cracking those things. So, but again, I took just Vanguard Invader stuff, right? I didn't take any Carnifexes or Norn Emissary or Assimilator or anything that would be able to deal with those things.
Right.
So as far as attachments go, the book has 6. So I think that's, kind of setting the standard for what we're going to see. And one of them is the detachment that we have already, just copied over.
Unchanged, which is great.
Yeah, it's got a few minor changes to it.
It's got tweaks? I didn't notice anything.
I don't think it had. I think maybe one of the stratagems is worded just a little bit differently, but merely just for more clarification than anything else. So if you have a Tyranid army that you're using for that, you can still use it and still use the Codex and just add the new units. So no change whatsoever. Then we have the much sought after Crusher Stampede for the Tyranid monster units.
For the big bads.
Yeah. If you're below starting strength, you get to add 1 to the hit roll. If you're below half strength, you get to add 1 to the wound roll.
So good.
So that's you put that huge threat forward and you start pinging some damage, and you're gonna be getting a little better. I think they have my favorite stratagem they had is they have one where they can move through enemy models, right? So they can just kind of push through the screen, and get to the tasty stuff behind.
It's neat because you want them to be below half strength, so they have to roll for battle shock, but also you kind of don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you set up right yourself, synapse, so you get to roll the 3d6. So hopefully that helps you out. But I think this was a lot of one that people were wondering, is this going to be in the Codex? And you get your Crusher Stampede. You get actually more monsters too with the Norn Emissary and Norn Assimilator.
Yes.
My other favorite one is the Unending Swarm.
I think it's going to be a favorite of a lot of people because the Gaunts are the unsung MVPs of Tyranids now.
Yeah, they're cheap, right? You can have, as many units. They're battle line. They're all battle line. This one affects things with endless multitude. So Termagants, Hormagaunts, and Gargoyles, right?
And Neurogons.
And Neurogons, yes. And basically what happens is if you get shot at and lose a model, you get to move D6 towards the unit that shot you.
But it's not just that. Like I was looking at that detachment in particular. Is 10th edition is really big on the race to victory points.
Yes.
You want to get to objective quick. You want to get ahead on victory points and make your opponent have to catch up to you. Gaunts move already lightning fast, especially Hormagaunts, 10 inches. You can advance them and charge. There's never a reason not to advance with them. And then if they get shot at, you can move them closer to an enemy. Now, that doesn't sound good for Termagants because you don't necessarily want them to get shot at, to go towards the enemy when they're being shot at. But there's a stratagem for one single point where you can have them move towards an objective instead.
Yeah, that's so good. Crazy.
But add that to their natural ability that when anything gets within 9 inches of them, you get a free movement, and they're D6.
Yeah.
You're basically moving Gaunts around the board all the time towards enemies, towards objectives, screening objectives. That list is gonna be long to play because that's a lot of move a lot of the time, but also so annoying to deal with. And of course, so many of their rules is about bringing back models and units and just.
They have the guard stratagem where you pay 2 CP for a unit that just died, and they just come back.
Yep.
Which is, it's crazy, and their rule is, when they make that move, it just has to be towards the closest enemy unit. You don't, just like a lot of the stuff, right? You don't have to move the whole distance, but you can move it to get behind cover, or get in a way more advantageous position. Your opponent shoots and picks one guy off, and then you're behind cover, and they can't shoot him anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or, in this move, you can engage the enemy too. So if they shoot from somebody further back and you move up and engage somebody closer, well, unless they have pistols or a vehicle, they're not shooting anymore.
And you got to remember, we're talking only about basically, the detachment rule and the stratagems. But you add to that some of the other key units, like Venomthropes. The Gaunts benefit from Venomthropes so much because they get both the stealth and the cover from them.
Yeah.
Then you get Teeming Masses as a stratagem for 1 CP, where you subtract 1 from the hit roll for hitting the Gaunts. Cheap units, they can tar pit entire armies, and they're each two objective control per model. So once they get to the objective, they're hard to remove. And they just sit there and they're tar pit. And
10th edition is a little more harsh on big units, right? Because it's +1 for blast weapons for every 5. But they have a strategy where they just count as 5 less models than they actually are on the unit.
Exactly. Of all the the detachment, this is the one that has the most. It's going to be very stratagem and CP hungry, because everything is useful at every step of your game.
So I got to throw a couple lictors in there to get some extra CPs.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and then, so I think that's going to be a really popular one. I pre-ordered a bunch of the new Hormagaunts so I can play this one.
I already own 120 Hormagaunts, so I think I'm in good shape.
Yeah, I think you got plenty, but I don't have quite 120, so. The next one is the Assimilation Swarm. This is one JF was talking about that focus on harvesters.
Favorite so far.
And really, kind of what it does is it kind of gives a unit that's within 6 inches of a harvester unit Each unit can do it in your command phase, but it lets them kind of do reanimation protocols, right? So
Yeah.
heal D3 on a single model, or even a little better than reanimation protocols. If it's infantry, just bring back a single model, or if it's endless multitude, so any of the gaunts, bring back 3 full models to the unit.
So good. It is very good. And everything about it is about this whole controlling biomass.
Yeah.
So whenever things are killed or you're killing things, you can use those to heal or strengthen various units. And some of them is like the whole healing thing, especially when you're talking about like I mentioned, one of your harvester units is Haruspex, which is already a massive tank of a model.
Yeah.
Having 3 of those just hanging about, being healed all the time, sitting on objectives, it's going to be a fun army to run because you can shape everything. Like I mentioned, you only have 4 different types of harvester units, so you don't need to overfill on them. And once you have them, everything else can be malleable. You can have this, okay, I wanted my army to be just sitting on objectives and not moving too much. Build your army like that. I want a hard-hitting unit that just rushes my enemy's front line. Go for it. I want to just sit my harvesters on objectives and let them do their thing while deep striking stuff in the back line. Go for it. It all works. And the best part is you don't even need to get fancy with your harvester units.
Right.
Because you can have for a very, very low price, lower now, you can get a bunch of Ripper Swarms to do all of this stuff for you.
Yeah.
And I think Ripper Swarms are sneaky good.
My immediate thought about Ripper Swarms were that they were garbage because their rules didn't seem like much. They're not hard hitting. They're not good tar pits because they die too easily. But now that I've played some 10th edition, I realized that Ripper Swarms are, again, maybe not necessarily MVPs, but definitely have their place. But in a harvester unit, in a assimilation swarm, they are good because
little units of Rippers all over the place, making your guys regenerate.
First of all, you can have them deep strike, so they can be wherever you need them, when you need them. They go in, have the objective control of whatever they're in combat with. Not too hard to do. But the best part is, with some of these stratagems, when they die, they actually benefit your army. Because you can redistribute that biomass to heal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and whereas 3 bases of Ripper Swarms used to be, 30, 35 points? They've now been reduced to 15 points for 3 bases. You can fill up on the Ripper Swarms for a very low price, and even if you have nothing else as harvester unit, you're still good. You're still doing bank.
Yeah, they're very beneficial here, and like I said, I think they're going to be somebody's going to figure it out, not me, and they're going to be sneaky good because you're going to charge a unit with like a bunch of Von Ryan Leapers and some Ripper Swarms, and it's okay. One of them's going to kill you, one of them's going to cut your OC in half. Which one are you going to attack? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be one of those lists that's harder to play because it's all about positioning.
Yeah.
And you need to be very clever and very smart about it. But it's one of those lists that's going to be rewarding to play because every time you succeed in doing your little nefarious plans, you get like serotonin, and it's good. But yeah, the stratagem I'm talking about, like Broodguard Impulse, like any phase, one harvester unit from your army that's just got destroyed, you can use that stratagem on that unit even though it got destroyed, and the effect is that until the end of the battle, each time a friendly Tyranid's unit's model makes an attack that targets the enemy unit that just destroyed your harvester unit, add 1 to the rule. So tossing your Ripper Swarms at various units that you want to enfeeble that way, this is perfect. So they have to kill a Ripper Swarm. Yeah, go ahead, kill it.
It's sort of like the Vulcan and the what are they? Vengeance? Is that what it is?
Judgment token.
Judgment. Yeah. I like it.
We have our Vanguard Onslaught detachment, which focuses on the the guys that kind of you think of as arriving first, as Jeff said, anything winged, anything lictor, and anything gene stealer. Anything in the detachment, any Tyranid unit can fall back and charge, but the Vanguard and Vader units get to advance and charge. And also, Death Leaper can be your warlord if you like.
Which
That's
is neat.
nice.
This is the one that I played a game with, and we should say every detachment has 4 enhancements and 6 stratagems, right? That's universal across the board.
Yeah.
And one of their enhancements is you get to redeploy 3 units after you figure out who goes first. So when I played, I had that. I ended up going first. I redeployed Lictors and a Neural Death Leaper and Neural Leaper 12, like just 12 inches away, or just over 9 away from one of his units. The Neural Lictor gets to make somebody take a battle shock test, so he failed that, and then Death Leaper ran in an 8 Chief Liberian Tigers right away. It was great. But this one, like kind of like we talked about, focuses on all the sneaky boys, and they have a lot of really interesting stratagems. Like I think the one that I ended up using the most, of course, was there's one where you choose a Vanguard Invader unit from your army, and when your opponents choose to shoot them, and you say, okay, you can't shoot me unless you're within 12 now.
Oof.
And then if you have Lone Operative, oh, actually, sorry, that's 6 inches. So, and then the other one that I ended up pairing that with is one that if an enemy ends a unit within 9 of you, you can pick 2 Vanguard Invader units or 1 Tyranid's infantry unit, and they can make a 6-inch move. Right? So, Death Leaper was great because they'd run up to him, I'd move 9 inches away, then they go to shoot him, and I'd say, oh, well, you have to be within 6, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oops.
So I had a lot of fun with this one. I think this is another really interesting one just because of, Advance and Charge isn't something that's really widely available now in 10th edition.
Yeah.
And what's neat about that one is that from a focus composition standpoint, it's like 3 detachments in one. Because you can, 4 detachments. You can go full mix. You can go full Gene Stealer. You can go full flying units, or you can go full Lictor variants.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're not going to go 100% with any of them, but that's where you can put your focus.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I had 15 Von Ryan Sleepers when I played. It was a lot of fun.
Oh,
2 units of 6 and 1 of 3 because they're only 75 points for 3. And I had 4 10-man units of gargoyles. And after the game, I was like, I'm just going to drop a unit of gargoyles and up that other unit to 6.
Well, you've been busy building, haven't you?
Well, the Von Ryan Sleepers, they're fantastic models, but they're also like easy to assemble models, right?
That is true.
Yeah.
So, because they're in the starter box.
Yeah.
So there's tons of them out there that people don't want, and they go together super easy.
Yeah, that's a good point. It pisses me off that I'm soon going to have to put Tyranids to the side to work on another project. Because I am having, I've played a lot with them. I'm going to debut my Neurolictor and my Norn Emissary soon. Maybe at Warhammer World.
Oh, yes, do it.
Such a flex. Oh, my God.
Yes, if you're at Warhammer World, the day this episode releases, you may see JF playing new tables.
I can't do it on the day this releases because we release on Saturday and they have an event Saturday. But I will be playing a game on Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. Sorry, the day after.
All right.
So I'll be able to stretch the legs of those 2 models, see how bad or good they do.
So good.
And our last detachment that we get is the Synaptic Nexus. So this one's interesting. They kind of have.
I hate to say it, but it's exactly what I expect.
Yeah, it's. They have doctrines like Space Marines, right? I think that's the easiest way for people out there to understand it. So they have 3 things at the beginning of the battle round. You can choose one of them to happen, and you can only choose each one once during the game. But they're actually very powerful, right? So if you're within synapse range, you have a 5+ invulnerable save. They all go off if you're within synapse range. The other one is add 1 to advance and charge, and the last one is add 1 to the hit roll for melee attacks. So all very strong, and there's, as you'd expect with the Tyranid army, there's quite a few synapse units in there for you to take advantage of this.
Oh, yeah.
Fewer than before.
Yes, true. It is fewer, but they're still. I mean, with the new, you have the Neurolictor, not the Neurolictor, the Neurothrope, and the Neurogaunts now that can help extend that range too. So.
Yeah, and the Neurotyrant is they have improved.
Neurotyrant,
We'll get to it later, but they have improved how it does its job. So, Synapse isn't as easy as it used to be, but it's not impossible to maintain a good synapse range. I think it's where it needs to be, where you actually have to actively work on keeping a synapse network going, but it's not a struggle.
Which makes sense because, especially in this edition with how Battle Shock works, synapse is very powerful, right? 3d6 for your leadership test is really good because let me tell you, I've been playing some Death Watch and I fail a lot of 6+ leadership tests. So where that extra die would help.
I'm used to playing against my brother who cannot roll under a 5 on d6s, so he almost never misses Battle Shock tests. It's frustrating. Like it makes Shadow in the Warp feel useless. Now I still win because Tyranids are super fun and very easy to overwhelm armies like Grey Knights with.
So, I mean, we know what JF's favorite is in mine. Amy, which is your favorite detachment out of the 6?
Oh man, I can say it because I'm not going to build and paint the models. So I do think Unending Swarm sounds awful fun. As someone who also is interested in the Necrons for sort of a similar reason. I like that, okay, that's fine. I'll just bring him back. Go, okay. You want to keep doing this? All right. I can do this all day. That's fine. I'm
looking forward to playing it with Endless Swarm because that's the thing. I may have a favorite, but doesn't mean I'm going to play just that. I can play whatever. Exactly. But I'm looking forward to playing Endless Swarm because already in some of the games, most of the games I've played, my Endless Swarm units they do feel endless a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So them being even more endless, I'm down with that. I'm comfortable with that concept.
And then when your opponent finally whittles one down and gets rid of it, you just say, okay, I spent 2 CP. I got that unit again. Sorry.
That is the real kicker.
I feel like that's the detachment that's going to be very forgiving for movement because you get so many options.
Yeah.
But it's the one where you have to count your CPs and be very careful with how you spend them.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a lot of new data slates, some updated data slates. I think and I understand why this is hard to do from a SKU perspective, but I'm disappointed that a month ago I didn't purchase them, but a lot of people purchased a pack of Tyranid data cards. And now, here's another one with the, 5 additional and your other detachment ones in there. That's going to be the same price as the one that you just bought.
Yeah, now I'm going to say that if you bought data cards when they came out, knowing, because we knew that this was happening, that you either do not care about the price or you're just you're in it for the completionist energy, and that's fine too. Because I expressly only bought the data cards for the 2 armies that I am bringing with me to Adepticon that are not getting codexes between now and then.
Yep.
Because we know everything for the next year. The year as of when they announced it, but we know everything that's coming out between now and then, unless there's a surprise. But it won't be a surprise that we already own. So
exactly. Anybody that went in there with their eyes open.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Games Workshop perhaps adjusted production for some of these things accordingly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the data slates that are in the Tyranid book compared to what we got before, 95% of them are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could take a Sharpie and fix those very quickly.
Yeah, I think, I noticed the Biovore stat line changed a little bit just to match the Pyrovore, and you said the Neurotyrant changed.
Yeah, Neurotyrant now, the Neuraloid, well, they changed the name of the rule that's now called Neuraloid, where you get to use those two little Neuraloid to extend the synapse range. Basically, you get to select 2 units that used to be within 12 inches, but is now within 18 inches of the Neurotyrant. And until the start of the next command phase, they count as being in synapse range.
Which is great. I mean,
that extra 6 inches means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you have 3 Neurotyrants, you are good. You are fine.
So, as far as new data slates go, right, we have the Norn Emissary.
I just want to point out one thing is that there is a point update in this codex. And while a few things go up, a lot of things go down in price.
Now, what I'm going to be interested in to see, actually, what I was going to mention was, because right at the top of the points page, right, it says, to get the most up-to-date points, go here. It has the QR code that takes you to the download page. So I wonder how soon after the Codex will be like, well, actually, here's your points. But yes, a lot of stuff did, if you look at just the Codex, does go down quite a bit in some cases.
Ripper Swarms. Price.
So as they preview this, just yesterday on the Warhammer Workshop from the time we're Warhammer community site from the time we're recording, but we got a little bit of the Norn Emissary Norn Assimilator. They are super tanky.
One is tankier than the other, though.
Yes, the Psychic, the Norn Emissary does have the invuln save. The
feel no pain against mortal wounds.
Yes, the Norn Assimilator doesn't have those benefits, but with his weapon, with the harpoon, hopefully he's going to be spending a lot of time in close combat.
Yeah.
And he also, I like how the Norn Assimilator almost encourages your opponent to stay in combat, because if they try to fall back on a 2+, they take D6 mortal wounds.
Mm-hmm. Whoops.
Like, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, those harpoons are fun.
Yeah.
And getting Feel No Pain 5+ and Objective Control OC 15, you pick an objective marker at the beginning of the game. I think that's probably going to be the go-to choice for their ability.
Here's the thing, right? Because of the nature of how they behave, like the Norn Emissary has good ranged weapons.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost indestructible. Like we're talking about, like it's a toughness 11, 16 wound monster. It's got a 2+4+ invulnerable, and it has a natural 4+ against mortal wounds. You sit it on an objective, it gets another 5+, feel no pain, and it gets OC5. I feel that the natural place for Norn Emissary is to babysit an objective, in my opinion. Meanwhile, the Norn Assimilator is a movement 10 behemoth that thrives on close combat, has that harpoon attack that facilitates getting into close combat,
mm-hmm.
and just nasty weapons. Nasty close combat weapons and attacks. It doesn't have the same resilience as the Norn Emissary. So having it be the kind of guy, the kind of thing like, all right, my Norn Assimilator is going to pick an enemy unit, something I want to see dead that won't do well against close combat, like a tank or a walker or whatever, and that's going to be my singular purpose choice. It's going to be that enemy unit. I feel that they're both suited for one specific choice for that special rule, that ability. I like that you have the flexibility of which one you're going to pick, because depending who your opponent is, you might want to adapt that way. But at the same time, they do feel like one of them is better than the other, in my opinion.
And the nice thing is that you get to pick at the start of the first battle round, right? So it's not pre-game. It's not pre-deployment or anything. It's you get to see how it
how
looks,
it's all
how you think it's
shaken
going to
out.
play out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I the attacker? Am I the defender? Who is my opponent? Where did he deploy? Like, what's in reserve? Like, you really get to lay those pieces to your advantage.
And the what they didn't show us is the Norn Assimilator is an absolute close combat monster.
Freak.
So they both the Norn Assimilator and Emissary have monster size and talons, which are 6 attacks, hits on 2, strength 9, -2 through damage, right? But the Assimilator has the Toxin Injector Harpoon, which is 4 extra melee attacks. They hit on 2, strength 12, -3, d6 +1 damage.
A little swingy with the D6. Like, it could be 7 wounds, it could be 2 wounds.
Yeah.
But 4 of those attacks at strength 12. Not bad.
Not only 4 attacks with that, but on top of the other 6 attacks.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he should, and they're also not Titanic, so they can hide behind ruins.
Yes.
Well, they're not Titanic because they're not that big.
Right. But I mean
But they could get the key. I mean, if they really felt sassy.
They were
Yeah.
They-
I feel like that would have been disingenuous because they're not even as big as a knight.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like they were saying right there, a Wraith Lord equivalent. So, or
I've compared sizes with some of my models, and the closest in size it is, like as far as height and build, is a Keeper of Secrets.
But I mean, it's great that you're able to hide them, behind the ruins and stuff.
Oh no,
In
absolutely.
the game.
Actually, if the listeners want to see a size comparison, at this point in time, you can probably go to our Facebook page for 40K Radio and have a look at a Norn Assimilator right next to a Chaos Knight Abominant.
Ooh, awesome.
So good.
And one of my favorite models, the Neurolictor.
Lovely little guy.
Not quite as attacky as your normal Lictor, but that's not what he's there for. Because every command phase, he just picks an enemy unit within 12, doesn't have to have line of sight, and just says, take a battle shock test.
You're so
Which is
scared right
great.
now.
Which is why I'm going to be having 3 of those.
Yeah.
Now, one massive disappointment is, despite his big brain, he is not Synapse. And that pisses me off.
Yeah, he's not Synapse. He does have Infiltrate and Lone Operative and Stealth, right? So he's kind of like your normal Lictor, but yeah, he does not have Synapse, but he does have an additional ability. So when enemy unit whenever any enemy unit within 12 is battle shocked, they get -1 to their hit rolls, and you get +1 to your wound rolls against them. Which is great because your normal everyday Lictor is strength 7. So, you typically are going to be looking for 3s. This makes it a 2, which is great. I think this is it's a great looking model, and it also, despite not having Synapse, is very effective on the tabletop. Especially if you take the Neuro Tyrant for that -1 to leadership for everybody on the table.
Yeah, he's very cool. There's no question. Like, I like what he does. It just, when I first saw it,
The visual language says Synapse.
Yes, 100% with that huge brain.
And it does say, finally, I can infiltrate a Synapse creature into the back line, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, a little bit disappointed.
And as promised, our lowly Termagants do get some special weapons. 1 per 10, and max size unit 20, but they get a nice, I think the winner there is the Strangle Web, which is it's a flamer, 18-inch flamer though, so a little extra range than your normal one, and it has Devastating Wounds.
Devastating Wounds is incredible.
Yeah. It's only strength 2, but you're fishing for those Devastating Wounds anyway, so. And I think, was that the last? And Death Leaper stayed the same. His rules haven't changed. He is a way bigger model than he used to be, bigger base. Same thing for lictors, right? The base size is bigger than they used to be. And they're great, still great character killers because all their attacks have precision.
Yep.
Not only did I eat Chief Librarian Tigurius, but I also ate Marina's Calgar.
Yes. Perfect.
Delicious, crunchy model.
What a day.
But I mean, a good number of new models, and like we said, a lot of the other data cards, they haven't changed, which is, I think, not a bad thing. It looks like they were looking ahead, right, when they were, they really wanted to, I assume, wanted to have Tyranids and Space Marines pretty well nailed down for what they wanted.
Yeah.
Other than points before they released everything.
There is one nerf that I noticed that's worth mentioning because it makes me a little sad, but at the same time, it's one of those fair enough nerfs. Is the Psychophage anti-psyker is no longer a 2+. It's now 4+.
Which is that 2+ was, I mean, especially with the way 10th edition works, right? Because characters have to join units, so you throw a librarian in a unit, and the whole unit counts as having psyker.
Yeah.
So
or there's some armies that are just psyker spirits.
Yeah, like Grey Knights, right? So I think the two, and especially since he gets. It's swinging, right? But it's D6 +1 attacks, so it could be 7 or it could be 2. But hitting that 7 could be pretty feels bad for your opponent.
Yeah, no, it was a lot, so to speak.
I wonder if but then there's also like other things. Sorry, like the talk screen that still has their 2+ anti-infantry. So you do have some pretty hard hitting stuff out there still.
Oh yeah. It's just this one in particular stood out to me because, as I said, I'm fond of the harvester keyword, and Psychophage are harvesters. So I was looking at them and it's like, that's a little bit too bad, but it's fair.
As a sort of a side note, which I just noticed as I've been playing, is that a lot of psychic powers aren't pistols, so you can't use them in close combat.
That's true. So. May I voice another major disappointment that I do have with the Codex file?
Yes.
So one of the things that was kind of an untold, a silent promise for this Codex when they announced the Winged Tyranid Prime was the return of Winged Warriors, the Shrikes. And the fact that Winged Tyranid Prime is a leader, is not a lone operative, but he's a leader. And the 3 units he can lead are Gargoyles, Warriors with melee weapon, and Warriors with ranged weapons. So he can either fly, use his wings to fly with a unit that's not great in close combat, so that he can't really benefit from his own close combat focus build, or he can forego flying to hang with other warriors, some of them shooting and some in close combat. There's no way to put him in a unit that really fully benefits from what he brings to the table as a close combat character.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. I feel it's too bad. I feel did they break a mold or something? What happened here?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the Winged Warriors didn't come back. I mean, they didn't update the Warrior kit, so maybe at some point they'll get to that and we'll see them again. But maybe. He does feel out of place with the units that he can lead, right?
Exactly. And because he doesn't have lone operative, you can't just have that guy wandering around alone. That's a lot of points advantage very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I think what I was kind of disappointed with is Gene Stealers, which used to be Marine Killers, right? That was kind of their place not only in the game, but in kind of the story. They're not really good at that anymore.
They're kind of mid. If they hang with a Broodlord, they get devastating blows.
Which is okay, but they're still only damage 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new kit is fantastic. The models are awesome.
Yeah.
They don't like. I took 3 units when I played, and I immediately after was like, I'm just going to take one with the Broodlord. Unless I feel like taking more than one Broodlord.
Yeah.
Because they kind of just died really quick. Because they used to have a 4+ save, now it's a 5+. With the 5+ invuln, which they're not horrible, but they're going to kill something, and then probably just do that. But
yeah, they're not bad, but they're not what we've been used to. Like they're not the threat that they used to be. Again, the 4 attacks each, like 40 attacks and devastating wounds.
Yeah, that's when they're great, right? That's when they feel good. And as we mentioned, right?
They're only objective control 1, which again is unfortunate.
Great sneaky trick I was doing was with gargoyles, because after they shoot, they can move 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I was dropping them right outside a 9 of somebody that was on an objective, shooting, and then moving 6 onto the objective, and they're OC2.
Nice.
So that was fun.
Yeah, gargoyles. I'm eager to finish building a unit of 20.
They die super quick, but they can throw a lot of shots and can do that. Can take objectives from your opponents before they get to score them. So because they deep strike. So.
Well, that's the thing. Like with a unit of 10 right now, I feel like they're too easy to wipe out. But if they had 20, a couple of them could survive, and if a couple of them survive, they can be brought back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they're also an endless swarm.
Yep.
And as we mentioned, the Biovore, their profile and then matches the Pyrovore. They were quite worse. They were toughness 5, 4+ save, and 4 wounds before, I think. But now they've matched the Pyrovore. So, which is great because, with those gosh darn D cannons floating around, your unit could have gotten wiped out by one shot, but not anymore. Now you'll have one left.
Yay.
I think this is a great template if codexes continue this way. Today, the day we're recording is the Nova preview, so I'm sure we'll get to see all the Space Marine models we didn't see from the last preview.
Yeah.
But a lot of new models, between Leviathan and the Codex release. And this, I think you have a lot more viable options in this Codex than we did in the past, right? Most codexes had one thing that was like, this is the best, this is the only thing you'd ever play with this codex, competitively, quote unquote. But now there's just so much more available.
Yeah, bottom line is I'm super excited for the Codex. It's not a home run. There are a couple of things that are disappointing or unfortunate. A lot of these things kind of open the door to more later, and hopefully that's a promise that will get fulfilled. Like, I'm still thinking, they keep mentioning Norn Queens here and there.
Please.
Still not seeing a model. Like I said, some Shrikes would be really good so that Wing Tyranid Prime actually works out.
Yeah.
But until those promises get fulfilled, I still think we got a solid codex, especially the detachments are extremely exciting because they don't feel over or underpowered. They're all very characterful and they look fun to play.
I think that's the most important part is they all look interesting and fun.
I don't feel the Synapse one is interesting, but I think that's mostly because that's not a style of play that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But that even better. That means that it's not all catered to me.
Yeah. I mean, 5 out of 6 ain't bad. That's like, toothbrush recommendation.
Yes. 5 out of 6 apothecaries recommend not using the Synapse detachment.
Yep.
And I do, I think one of my favorite things, even though it's such a small thing, is in the points section where they put that QR code, like, go get your bonus points here. Just to...
Like, look, we gave here, they're here. All right. But they don't...
We're updating them all the time, so please go here to make sure that you're correct.
But here you go. If
avoids
you need a ballpark.
Avoids uncomfortable discussions where, people get confused on points. It's super easy. I think it's a great army. I think if you're a Tyranid player, just like, right, you might not love the whole thing, but there's a lot of good stuff here to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else on the Tyranid Codex, guys?
Still debating if I'm getting a collector's edition or not. Probably not because money is a thing and I need to buy models, but otherwise I'm looking forward to holding it in my hand and actually playing some games with it, which should not be too far in the future, so I'll be reporting back.
I'm real happy with how it looks like as a codex. Like,
yeah.
If this is what we're doing, good. Okay, let's get through them a little faster though, guys.
Yeah. We don't know yet because the day you're going to hear this is the pre-order date. The Codex isn't even out yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're like, hey everybody, here's another detachment for you. Everybody else.
Even if we don't do it like now. If we do it like 6 codexes in and go, all right, here.
Yeah.
Take this. Yeah.
I do want to point out like that the artwork in this codex leans a little more into the horror.
Sure does.
And I don't hate it.
No,
I like it
great.
a lot.
There's also a very comprehensive painting guide in the combat patrol section.
Yes, for the Leviathan style.
Yeah, that was real nice.
That is true. Very cool.
So if you are new and you're buying the codex, I feel like before, if you were a new player and you bought the codex, I feel like a lot of it is like this is a lot. But I think that this one it's got a good section for if you're brand new. Here you go, start here. Okay. We'll hold your hand. It's okay.
Yeah, it's good value for new and old players.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as always, tons of background and pictures and art, right? 50 pages before you get to the combat patrol. So
yeah,
actually a lot of like little vignettes of like explaining what's like little dioramas, which is great.
Yes.
And plenty of other alternate paint styles represented too, not just the Leviathan paint style.
Yeah.
And it's worth pointing out that Games Workshop has been kind of knocking it out of the park as far as these old background things that they've been writing. Like I've been reading a lot of the ones in the Leviathan book, and I feel that while they used to be good, now they're even more. So they've refined the technique, so to speak.
Yeah, I always found the most interesting stories were those like little blocks off to the side. That was just a couple paragraphs, and they really continued. Like you said, those are getting even better than they were before. So again, like we said, GW sends a bunch of kits. Any one of the new kits tried, except for the gaunts with their special weapons, because it's just a little 10-guy box with the special weapons. But we get everything else. I think my favorite one was the Lictor, because it's got 3 poses, and it's very customizable. Its claws have 2 joints and pieces that go in between there. So each of the 3 poses has specific ones, but there's nothing stopping you from mixing them for the scything talons into the other poses to sort of change the angles and stuff.
So good.
So very customizable. And as promised, right, the Gene Circuit has its 10 Cthulhu heads. So if you want to do a full squad of those. And I'm sure you could mix the parts with the Neurolictor and Deathleaper if you really wanted to with the Lictors and stuff. I think in the article today, some guy was like, one of the guys at GW was saying, I messed with the Lictor kit and I have like 6 different poses on my desk right now, all different. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to see a semi-comprehensive, if you want to see me open those boxes and do an unboxing, there's a video of that going up either today or tomorrow. And there's also the sort of assembly and painting video for the Norn Assimilator with photos of the end results. Also either up today or tomorrow. I can't remember in which order I put them.
Very cool. So guys, if you're playing Tyranids, let us know which detachment you're the most excited to play. Check out the pictures on our Facebook and also the videos on Warhammer Workshop.
Heck yeah.
for all a bunch of stuff about Tyranids, and I'm sure I have some pictures to post, and I'm sure as when Jeff plays this game, hopefully we'll get a picture or two for that.
Yeah, I'll pick a few.
And check out, again, a lot of you guys liked JF's paint scheme, so you can see a Neurolictor and a Norn Assimilator in that paint scheme up on our Facebook page as well.
And I do go into more details about how I do achieve my paint scheme in the video. So, and I'm planning a third video. I took footage that I need to make a video on how I do my bases. So that's also coming in the next few weeks.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I know a lot of people have really commented on that paint scheme and how much they liked it. So the more information you guys can get, the better. And we'll be back in a couple weeks to talk about the Nova Open preview. Thank you for listening to 40K Radio, part of the Freebooters Network. You can contact us via email at hosts@40kradio.com or on the Freebooters Forum. Please check out the other podcasts on the Freebooters Network. Until next time, remember that in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war and cookies.